Hello.
Hello. Johnny, I haven't seen you in years.
It certainly feels like that.
What's that?
I was interested in becoming a systems engineer, Johnny.
What'd you say?
No one is interested in becoming a systems engineer.
That wasn't me.
Who is that?
It's
It's a joke.
June.
Sounds like Jude.
It's the greatest job in the world, though.
Hello. What the? Why is June
Oh,
over there?
What is Jude doing over there?
June lives in your apartment, dude? I didn't know that.
He's in the
Hi, Esther. Hi, Johnny.
Hello.
Killing me softly with this love. Do, 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 do.
Oh, Jason.
Killing me softly with this love. Killing me softly. There you go.
Jason.
Huh? Gene, I can't hear you, and it's probably not important, so.
Oh, this is recording.
Hopefully they delete that first bit.
Should June leave? Did I have him play Animal Crossing or something? Play Smash?
Kids want to be data analysts too.
I know nothing about it, so.
It's a great skill to be in.
Jay! Hi, Jay.
Hello.
Hi, Jay. Oh, look at everybody crawling in here. Hi, everybody. Hi, Christina. Hi, Ernie. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Dan. Hi, Euban.
Young King the
King.
streamer.
What a legit setup.
Why everybody muted?
Are you gonna sing for us, dude? Oh my god.
No,
Yes,
not
Serenus.
Are you doing a
Sang
podcast
for
for
us
us?
a couple minutes ago.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this week's podcast.
Dang, that voice.
Yeah, your audio sounds so much better than all the rest of ours.
No, so smooth.
I know. I'm gonna go get my mic.
I was gonna put on my headphones.
Hey Stu, what's up, dude?
Hey, friends, my favorite people.
Hey.
It might be a little noisy because we're still in the process of getting the kids down.
Me too.
Hi, everyone. We'll give everybody 2 more minutes, and we'll start at 7:35 promptly.
I thought that background was real for a second, but then I was like, wait, that's not your house.
The trees aren't moving.
No.
Okay, 7:35. So let's go ahead and jump in. Just as a heads up, this is being recorded. So there were a handful of students who emailed me saying that they couldn't attend tonight, but that if it were recorded, that they would love to watch. So I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube afterwards. So just a heads up. And students, if you miss anything, you can always go back and refer to it as well. I'll send a link out to everybody in email and on Facebook afterwards. So let me pray, and then I'll explain what we're going to do, and then this shouldn't be too long. We'll jump into tonight's agenda. Okay, so let me pray for us to begin. Father, thank you for our church family, that although we've been scattered physically, that really your spirit unites us so much more than physical proximity does. And thank you that we're also family beyond knowing each other. There are many people in this room who will see each other for the first time and have never met, just because maybe we're in different life stages or we never had the chance to meet each other on a Sunday. But we're still family because your blood unites us, Lord. And as a church family, we're grateful to be able to sharpen each other and to help each other, to learn from each other, and to grow together. So thank you for all the panelists who are here tonight, as well as all of our students who are here tonight. Would this evening be pleasing to your heart and worshipful? We might not be singing songs or listening to a sermon, but I pray that as we sharpen each other and serve each other, Lord, that just in the way that a worship song would, Lord, that it would be pleasing to your heart, and that it would be our worship that we give to you tonight on this Friday evening. So bless our time. Would it be guided by your spirit? And would it, as we may just be sowing really simple seeds through this Zoom call, we pray that you would bear lots and lots of fruit in the future out of it. So we give you all the glory. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you to our working folks who will be sharing a little bit and for your preparation. And thank you, students who are here. I hope that it's helpful. What I told our panelists is ultimately like just sharing for 10 minutes isn't going to change anyone's life. But certain areas of advice can definitely be a catalyst and a trigger to helping you navigate your work and vocational future in a very different way. I know that has for me. When I was approaching going to seminary, there were a lot of talks I had, and I forgot a lot of those talks, but there were a lot of one-liners that I held on to that like kind of led my whole path to my career, and that I share to people who are considering seminary today. And so I hope that some of that kind of stuff comes out of tonight. But more so, I hope to build bridges. Sometimes all you need is a one-liner, but sometimes you need a relationship. And so when I invited the working folks to come tonight, what I asked them was, are you, one, like down to just talk on a Zoom, but two, are you down to talk to students who might reach out to you separately and to engage with them and help them in their career outside of the Zoom call? And all of them said that they were comfortable with that. So for those of you students who maybe have more questions in the future, or maybe you might have a question tonight, but you might be too shy to bring it up, I'm going to be sharing everyone's contact information at the end. So that way you can contact them separately if you'd like to. So yeah, our main goal is some advice and then building bridges for counsel for your future. So what we'll do is, I have 3 prompt questions that we're going to have all of our working people share their answers to. And then at the end, we'll open up to questions. You can either unmute yourself and ask questions or do it in the chat portion. If there are no questions, we'll just wrap it up, and then I'll share everyone's email addresses. And if you have questions, again, you can do it outside. So if something someone says triggers a question, write it down, and then you can ask during the Q&A section at the end, okay? So for starters, the first question that I asked for the people to be prepared with is just to share a little bit of their story so that you guys are all aware of how they ended up where they are today. So, I asked them to just give a quick overview of what they studied. Are they currently in their 4th career, 1st career? Like, all those kind of details. How long did they know that they wanted to be a fill in the blank, and all those types of things. So panelists, I'll just have you do that like mini vocation testimony. And we'll just answer number 1, all of you, and then we'll move on to number 2 and 3. So we're just starting with the miniature vocational testimony, and we'll go in the order of my email, which the names are Esther, Ernie, Dan, Olivia, Jason, Stuart, Sam, Johnny. So Esther will go first, and then Ernie, you're on deck. So Esther, you want to share with us your road to becoming a RN?
Okay. Hi, guys. My name's Esther. I am a registered nurse working in the emergency room at the Veterans Hospital. I went to BC to get my bachelor's in the science of nursing, and I graduated in 2018. I actually graduated a year late, but if you guys have any, I'll talk about that later. But for me, why nursing? Honestly, senior year of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I applied to a lot of undecided to a lot of schools in state, but my mom was kind of wise in suggesting that I apply to like nursing school. I mean, she's someone that knows me really well, and she's also kind of wanted me to be kind of smart about at least going into a career. And nursing is a smart choice. I mean, it's a big demand, and overall there's like stability and job security. So initially I went in just because my mom told me to, and like freshman year, I didn't really like know what nursing was or like what it entailed, and like classes were just prereqs, so it was like whatever. But I think for me, when I first did my clinical experience, that was when my kind of heart kind of grew for nursing. I went into nursing thinking that I could play like a big role in like minority groups that have poor access to healthcare, whether it's because they have a language barrier or because of their socioeconomic status or just because of their cultural beliefs and practices. And I thought I could draw like on my own background and like hopefully bridge that gap. But in addition to that, I think like in the clinical experience, in the clinical setting, I was able to like be hands-on. I can't sit behind a desk and push papers. Like I like to be on my feet and I like to interact with people. So I think through those different clinical experiences, being able to see kids, being able to see adults, being able to see a baby being born. Like, I think those experiences helped me kind of solidify, like, this is what nursing is and what it looks like. And like, I'm all for it and I want to do it. So for me, I stuck through, was able to get through freshman year. I went into sophomore year and was able to do my clinical stuff. And that was what really like drew me into nursing. I also like how nursing is kind of like a team effort where you work with other doctors, other nurses, PT, OT, social work, nutritionists, and like everyone. And I used to play sports, and I really love being able to collaborate and interact with people. But also, like I said, like you see a wide range of people, whichever specialty you go into, you get to see a lot of things and learn a lot of things. And like I said, I like to be on my toes. So that was something that really drew me and what I wanted to stick with. So if you have any questions on like different, specialties, like what nursing school is like and like different opportunities, just ask me. In terms of extracurriculars, BC was very good about supporting their students, nursing students. So not only clinicals, but I was a part of like this leadership program where they gave me a lot of resources and support. So I was able to experience a lot of different things. So I really encourage you to look out for whatever your school offers, whether it's, a club or like a organization. It really helps kind of give you a bigger picture and a better sense of what you're going into. And they also, like, when you're graduated and you're working in the work field, it's hard for you to like seek out those opportunities, but schools give it to you, like they hand it out. So I encourage you guys to actively look for those and take a part of them. And in terms of internships, I worked as a PCA, or a patient care assistant. As a nursing student, after you finish your first clinical, you're able to work as a nursing assistant. So I think junior year summer, I worked as a student nurse assistant at the Veterans Hospital. I was in the urgent care at that time, and they kept me throughout my undergrad career. So I was able to work and go to school and like make a little extra money while, building up experience. And then after I graduated and got my license, I stayed in the VA. I actually got into the residency program, which is a year-long it's like kind of like doctors who go to residency, but for nurses, you get to go to different floors, experience different things, get to know what the hospital's like. And after I finished, that was last August, I was hired onto the spinal cord unit. That was really hard. So after 2 months, I applied to the emergency room, and I've been there since. So yeah, the only experience I have is the Veterans Hospital, but if you guys have any questions, I do have some clinical experience through school at like different hospitals as well. So you can always ask for that. I am currently working as a night nurse, which has a whole other, slew of questions and like, what is it like and stuff. So if you guys have questions, ask me about that too. That's about it.
Okay, thank you, Esther. Next is Ernie, and then on deck will be Dan and Olivia.
Hey everyone, I'm Ernie. So I'm a software engineer / engineering manager at a software company called HubSpot in Cambridge. I've been here almost 7 years now. My path is fairly vanilla. I went to MIT, which brought me to Boston, and I actually didn't know what I want to major in. I'd always, liked STEM kind of stuff, which is why I went to MIT, but didn't know what I wanted to do. And I happened to take a programming course my freshman spring, and I really liked it. And I was neglecting all the other classes I was taking. So I was like, okay, maybe this is what I should do. So yeah, that's kind of like what led me down that path. I just really liked the problem solving and just the approach, and it just like really matched kind of my skills and my interests. I did do an internship before my senior year out in California, which is like pretty traditional internship, which was great to just get that real professional experience. But the summer before, I did something a little different, which is I got to go on a trip to Rwanda, and we taught like programming to students at a university there. So it was just like something very different, and it was like cool to get that kind of experience. And I could have done another internship, but I was really happy I did that instead, because it's something unique, and it's like an experience that I'm not gonna probably pay to go to Rwanda right now. So it was very cool. My first job was actually, I was gonna do a normal job at a startup, but I ended up starting a startup with a friend, like got into like an accelerator program and moved out to California. It was all crazy. I was very unhappy though. Um, Basically moved the day after graduation, flew out to California, did that for a couple months, and then eventually was like, I don't like California. I don't want to do this. I came back. Sorry to all you people who like California. But I moved back to Boston very shortly thereafter. So if any questions about that kind of a thing, happy to talk about it. Did one other job for a little bit and then ended up at HubSpot. So that's kind of what brought me here.
So quick question, Ernie, in the software development world, you know, working or staying at the same company for a number of years is pretty rare. And so you're somewhat of a dinosaur at HubSpot. Like, what's kept you at your company so long when it's very typical of your field to bounce around a lot?
Yeah, I ask myself that every day. I think anytime where I've thought I'm starting to get bored or like, should I look for something else? I think I get a new opportunity, whether it's like a promotion or like this is a different team. I get to learn something new. So I think there's just like been enough change every year or two that it just keeps it exciting. And I generally like the culture of the company, and I've been able to basically grow with the company. You know, went from like 500 people to now it's like, I don't know, like 4,000 people, like on public in that time and all that stuff. So it's just like, there's just been like always new stuff to do. So I'd never really just like thought the grass was greener anywhere else. Yeah, so I mean, I'm always kind of evaluating options, but that's kind of what's kept me here.
Cool, thank you. All right, Dan and Olivia.
Hey everyone, I'm Dan. Let's see. I am currently a emergency medicine resident over at MGH in Brigham, finishing up my last year. In terms of how I ended up here, it's been a pretty atypical path. I went to college at Dartmouth over in New Hampshire. Started off doing some pre-med classes for the first year. Did terrible. Changed majors, and I actually ended up being a religion major for the rest of college. And I wanted to give up and never do medicine ever in my life. I also ended up doing pretty bad in religious studies, and I think part of it was pretty multifactorial. I think a lot of it had to do with, honestly, me just not knowing what I wanted to do. But also it was a pretty traumatizing experience because, unfortunately, while Dartmouth initially was a very Christian campus when it was, you know, like founded in the earlier years, more recently it's become much more secular. And so the religious studies, it wasn't like theology like some other schools might have at like BC, but it was really more of like a historical kind of almost anti-Christian or anti-religious kind of department. So that was a very interesting experience that kind of pushed me away from wanting to do more religious studies at that time. So as I was thinking about what to do senior spring or maybe fall, I found that there's a program at BU. There's like a post-bac program where you take 2 years, do a master's program, and you take science classes to try to get into some sort of grad school. So med school, dental school, pharmacy, whatever you'd like to do, PA school as well. And so I ended up here in Boston right after college. And I felt like I started over again. I took classes that I honestly failed in college, like biochemistry. I took biochemistry probably 3 times, to be honest. And then I finished 2 years, I applied to med school. I tried really hard, but I think honestly, and this is part of my testimony, but I think Cornerstone was a huge, huge factor in terms of me being able to stay in the program and be persistent and have a really supportive community during that time, and kind of rebuild my faith in a lot of ways after having such a difficult experience studying religion. And so those first few years really affirmed my decision to kind of rethink medicine and reconsider it. And then I applied to med schools, stayed at BU for 4 years, and then matched for residency. And so I'm in my 4th year now, and then I'll be finishing up next spring. Yeah. Is that all the questions?
Did you intern?
Oh, intern. I don't remember. I might have done like some sort of internship during college, but maybe like the first year when everything was just like I think a lot of it was forced. My parents brought up the idea of thinking about medicine. I wasn't sure, and so I just did what my parents wanted me to do. But I realized I was unhappy in college, and so I had to figure out that path on my own. So it took me 4+ years to figure that. Actually, I'm still figuring it out now. It took me 4+ years to think about applying to med school, but this path has been long, and I'm still figuring it out every day. And I think that's part of the journey. So, yeah.
Cool. Done? Okay. Hi, my name's Olivia. I'm currently working as a pharmacist with CVS in Boston. I guess for me, what's a little bit different is that I did not start college with the intention of going into pharmacy at all. I went into University of Michigan with the intention of getting out with, yes, we're married, with the intention of getting a business degree. I was really interested in like marketing or consulting. So I did do like an internship with a consulting firm, but of course, like parents have like a very big influence on you. And my mom was really concerned about me having a desk job because she knew me better than I knew myself at that time. And she knew I couldn't sit at a desk. I was more active on my feet, kind of like what Esther was saying. And she had mentioned pharmacy to me. I didn't really look into it at all. But one of my church mentors, actually I had 2 church mentors, and they both happened to be like in pharmacy school, and they were working as pharmacists. And I think that really played a big part in why I switched into pharmacy. Yeah. So I think, when was it? Halfway into sophomore year, I had like an epiphany of like, not epiphany, what's the word I'm looking for? Epiphany, sorry. An epiphany that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm headed down the, is that right?
I don't know. I made that up.
Sorry, we're like not that
not
educated, I guess.
Very...
But yeah, I just realized that I was not going down the right path. And so, yeah, halfway into sophomore year of college, I did a full 180 and I like switched my major to general biology so that I can like fit all my prereqs. And then after that, I went straight into a 3-year accelerated program, 3-year accelerated pharmacy program at MCPHS Worcester. And I did not intern, did not work during pharmacy school, which I really don't recommend, especially right now because of how saturated pharmacy is. So you really want to get your foot in the door. But I was really, really lucky enough to be offered an intern position during my last year, which led to me getting, sorry, Unji's texting me. But yeah, so which led me to my current job now. And yeah, that's
Okay, Jason, and then Stuart is on deck.
Cool. Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry if I'm gonna go in and out. My internet's kind of loopy, so I'll try to push through, pray for internet to push through. So my name is Jason. I'm crazy I'm saying this. I'm a social worker. I just graduated from BC with my master's in social work. And my story is kind of crazy too, in the sense that when I went to University of New Hampshire, up north in New Hampshire, and I actually went undecided and went for that for a long time, 2 years actually. I didn't make a decision until sophomore year, and then sophomore year, I don't know why, I went towards business just because it was the direction, and I was like, yeah, my parents would be proud of business, so let's just try. And then a year after that, I almost failed out of University of New Hampshire, where they sent me a letter saying like, hey, you are averaging a D, so you are going to be kicked out of school soon. And I said, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And obviously that school was part of it, and then girls and relationships the other part of it. And so as I was deciding that, my dean actually approached me and said, Jason, like, and it was crazy. God intervened in such a crazy way, but he actually acted like a mentor for me. And the dean of my department was like, hey, like, I know it's so crazy and you came undecided and seems like this is not your thing. Like, and he walked me through just kind of my strengths. And so I actually graduated from UNH with communication, and it was awesome. Like, it was fitting to me. I love the relationship part of it, getting to know propaganda and like how people manipulate people. And like, the art of media and how power is in media. So I actually graduated with honors, which is insane, from after that. And so, but that wasn't like, oh my gosh, I know what I'm gonna do. So after graduating, I actually spent a lot of time figuring out what I wanted to do, because obviously communication is so broad, and I didn't want to go towards the PR route, which a lot of communication majors usually kind of go towards, because I don't want to clean other people's mess. I want to make the mess. But yeah, I just didn't find joy or think that was for me. To be fair, around this time, I was kind of thinking about like counseling and social working, but I never really pulled the trigger. So in my mind, which is probably a lot of you guys who are thinking, and or if you guys are graduating soon and whatnot, was first goal is to make money. And so I went towards any route that allowed me to do that. And so I actually couldn't find a job for a couple of years. After graduating, I was working at Apple, doing retail sales. And then I left Apple and I did some short-term 6-month like healthcare thing that didn't like appeal to me very much. And I went back to Apple thinking like, okay, here's another transition. Like I'll figure out my future eventually. And I'm like 24 at the time, being like, okay, let's just figure out what's gonna happen. And from there, God just kind of intervened for me, where I was really lost. I was fooling myself trying to think that I was going towards a direction, but I wasn't. And so it wasn't actually till I actually wound up at a administrative assistant job, administrative assistant job at a law firm. And if you guys know me, why am I doing in law, right? So I'm in a law firm, ordering food, booking rooms, booking cabs for clients and lawyers that I don't even care about. And they were just sucking money and people and everything from their clients. And I was like, God, is this really what you want me to do? And I woke up like 7:30 a.m., took the Amtrak to go downtown Boston, and didn't come back till like 6, because I was still living in North Boston, like our northern part of Boston. And so, or Massachusetts, sorry. And so just been doing that for like half a year, until my manager called me into the office and said, hey, we need to talk. And pretty much the talk was, we love you, but it's not a good fit. And in my mind, I was like, you love me, it's not a good fit? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why don't you keep me then if you love me? And so they're like, yeah, we can't keep you because you're messing up and you're not good at what you do. So I was like, okay. And with the side story, as an administrative assistant, I had to write people, like when people got fired, they had to write a taxi cab voucher. That day, my boss came up to me and was like, hey, can you write a taxi cab voucher? Someone's gonna be let go today. And in my mind, I didn't think it was me. So I was like, oh, sure. And I was writing my own cab voucher to go home. So anyway, but that actually was the turning point for me. It was in that cab drive. So I went from Boston to Lowell, which is about like a 40-minute drive. And they took me home to my car. And in that car ride, I went from everything to, God, like, this sucks. Like, how could you? Like, I was making like 40K and I was gonna do good and I was gonna get better. But then God just wrecked me and was like, Jason, like, what do you mean, you foolish boy? Like, you're complaining and like crying, even like cursing me that you're like, why am I at this job when I'm not being fulfilled? And I was like, you're right, God, I'm so sorry. And so in that car ride, the week before I got fired, was a friend of mine who was doing like therapy mentoring, which is just like kind of think of it as a big brother, big sister program that works with kids who have trauma and stuff, working with therapists. He called me the week before being like, hey, I heard that you're like kind of thinking about this. We have openings. And at the time, because it was a week before, I said, nah, I'm good. Like I'm set at my job. But God, at that cab ride, told me, hey, contact your friend and apply. And so I was like, okay, sure. And so the next day applied, and I think a week later, I started my journey towards social working. And you guys can ask me more about that. Just to fast forward a little bit, was just more as I got into trusting God, into, again, it took me a long time to get here, but as I started walking by faith and as I started to really apply to these things, God just opened doors in the ways that, one was, as I started that job, I loved it. And I started to see that this is something that I really enjoy and I really love. And second was, I didn't get into grad school right away. It took me 4 tries to get into BC. And in that time, God really showed me and disciplined me almost like, I'm not going to give you exactly what you want right now, because I think I want you to know and see and build into it. And so that I can tell you, like, was it 7 years later from that point in that cab drive, I can tell you that, man, God's been so faithful, and that it's crazy that I'm sitting here virtually with you guys saying that I'm a social worker. But yeah, I didn't do any internships. Internships were very rare for me. Especially as a business major, I didn't care. Communication, I was like, no, I'm just gonna graduate. The real internship for me was kind of when I did grad school, and I interned at an elementary school, shadowing a adjustment counselor for students in elementary. And then second was at Mass Mental, which is part of the Department of Mental Health, and here in Boston in Longwood, where I worked with chronic mental illness like schizophrenia, bipolar, and etc. But yeah, there's a lot to the story. I love telling it. Please ask me. You can message me. As a social worker, I'm built on helping, so feel free to reach out.
That's the first time hearing Jason's story. That's pretty awesome. And it's awesome that you talk to God like he's your buddy. Is that a good segue? Okay. All right. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Stuart. I am a user experience and strategy for healthcare. And this is my second career, actually. And I transitioned in from actually the business side of healthcare. I used to do project level investment banking and finance for healthcare, and I did that for about 6 years. And after I made the switch, I really love my job, and I haven't really looked back since. But where the story starts really is I went to school for finance, and I actually liked finance. I was actually pretty good at it. And then my job, I actually liked out of school. But the problem was that I think I always had disparate interests, and I just never figured out a way to really marry those and find an overlap. And once I discovered that through meeting a lot of people, researching and bumping into different types of people in different types of industries, and also just a product of the times and where internet was going, digital products were going, I think those opportunities just emerged. And once I kind of figured out that there is actually a world where design and business could really work well together, is when I took that chance. Also, I met a wonderful wife who actually nudged me into it too, so which is awesome. The other piece of that story is that I think growing up, I don't think God really lied or make mistakes in my life. I think I always had a creative side, but growing up with, like traditional Korean background, I was never taught that something like that could be a career. It was always taught that that's a hobby. So I never really acknowledged that that's actually a thing that I could do as a career. So I had like 3 choices. I could be a lawyer, a doctor, or a failure. And I rebelled, and I was like, no, I'm going to do business. So I did that, and I mean, like in high school, even though like I knew that I probably should still go to school for business, I still created an art portfolio. But because I'm the first son in my family, and I felt this like weight of like I probably should be doing the right thing, I ended up just burning my entire art portfolio. So I actually don't remember how to draw anymore. It's been so long. But I think all of those stories kind of started to overlap as I got older and started to make my own decisions. And that's how I got here. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome ride. And yeah, no regrets. There's a lot more that I could share about it, but I'll just keep it pretty brief there.
Just quick question. Yeah, you can keep it brief. But how old were you when you switched from finance to UX?
Oh yeah, so I was in my late 20s. So I did the first part of my career for 6 years. So if I stayed another year or two, like I would have been on that track, to probably managing director, principal and stuff. But I was just kind of observing my bosses and my boss's boss, and I just didn't think that picture, that life didn't fit me. And the more and more I got into it, it would crowd out my hobbies, all the other stuff that really gave me life. And when I found that opportunity is when I just kind of decided to jump. And I've been designing for about 5 years now. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Stu. Sam and then Johnny.
Hello, I'm Sam. I'm a physician assistant. I currently work at an urgent care. So from this profession, I actually didn't really know about it until late in college, so like my junior year. I only heard it in passing, and like my friends were talking about it. So when I like looked it up, it seemed like a right fit, just because of I knew I wanted to go into healthcare, but all I knew was like PT, nursing, doctor, like some of the more like general, like well-known professions. And physician assistant wasn't really like picking up like it is now. And so the thing I really liked about the PA profession is that there's so much like flexibility in like what you can go into. So you can go into like emergency medicine, but then if you don't like it, you can go into pediatrics or surgery or just flip flop, depending on what you want to go into really. But I went to Georgia State and I studied biology just because I knew I wanted to go into healthcare. And as far as interning, because I found out late, it doesn't really matter. Well, for PAs, it doesn't really matter what you do as far as intern, as long as you have like hands-on patient care experience. So if you're like a PCA, like a patient care assistant or certified nursing assistant, EMT, even volunteering, as long as you're like hands-on, like touching the patient and interacting with them, that counts as hours. But there's a lot of requirements, but I worked as a ophthalmology technician at a retina surgery practice. So that's really specialized. It's not like we only deal with the eyes and even super specialized within the eyes. And so we don't know, or I didn't have any exposure to like hearts or like surgery, like GI surgery and stuff like that. So I worked there for 3 years, and then I applied I guess twice. But let's see, I applied mainly in Boston, just because at the time there were four programs. Now I just looked it up. There's 9 programs now. So it was a long journey. I can talk about that again more in detail. But I just really like the flexibility again and different paths to you can expand like horizontally and vertically. There's academics, there's you can do research, and then you can also do residencies to further like specialize in training too. let's see, PA, urgent care. It's technically my second job. I worked in cardiac surgery. So that's just an example of transitioning. I worked in cardiac surgery at Tufts and for only a couple of months, but it just wasn't the right fit. I wasn't, vibing with that crowd. So I switched over to urgent care, and I've been there for about a year and a half now.
All right. My name's Johnny. I'm currently a systems engineer at Raytheon, which basically means I kind of do IT for specific projects. I graduated BU with a degree in mechanical engineering. And I did mechanical engineering basically because in high school I was good at math and physics, and so it seemed the right path. And I had pretty good grades in college, but I wasn't super motivated or proactive outside of academics, so I didn't really search for internships or research or anything like that. And that definitely came to bite me in the butt, believe it or not. So yeah, after college, I was unemployed, / working in a restaurant for around 3 months until a friend of mine referred me to the construction company that she was working at. So I started doing started doing engineering for the construction company, doing a lot more civil stuff. And that was, it's a good job, but it's a rough job. I was basically working in ditches and in pits, and you come home covered in dirt and concrete and stuff. And then I was also driving to the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania every week, and coming back for Cornerstone. So that was a 6-hour drive one way. And I managed to stick it. Well, I wasn't doing the drive the whole time, but I did that for about a year for one of the projects. But I stuck it with the construction company for about 4 years until I couldn't handle it anymore, and I quit. And then I was unemployed for about 9 months, and desperately searching for another job until I landed this gig at Raytheon. So it's definitely a completely different field. And by the grace of God, somebody decided to take a chance on me for something that is completely out of my field of experience. So yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone. So, I mean, I've tried to limit my questions, but I feel like all of your stories are because you guys just brushed over, there are a lot of blanks that I'm sure some of the students might have questions about. So if you do, just remember and write it down. You can ask later. So let's do this really quickly for number 2. I asked the panelists to think of something that they know now that they wish that they knew in college. So if you could just share one piece of advice that you wish that somebody had told you while you were looking out for your career. It doesn't necessarily have to be exact to your career. Oh, I wish that I had taken this class sooner because then I would have become this faster. I mean, it can be, but it also can be in life. I don't know, Stuart, I think, is the only one that did a huge job leap change, but it could be related to that, anything. What do you really wish that you had known in college? So let's go in the same order, and we'll answer that question.
Okay, so for me, words of advice, I guess it's not really related to nursing, but for college students, I wanted to tell you guys that it's okay to struggle, it's okay to fail, and it's okay to ask for help. Just that you own up to it and be honest with yourself and with other people. nursing is really hard, and I'm sure any other career path has its own challenges, but you don't have to suffer through it alone. For me, like my whole life, I felt like I needed to be responsible, and like Stuart said, like as the oldest, you want to like live up to certain expectations, and as as children of immigrant families, like you want to please your parents and such. And it's good to aspire for these things, but I think for me, the biggest lesson that you can learn in college is not what career you're going to go into or what hobbies you like or what relationships will last. I think the biggest thing is actually figuring out who you are. So for me, the most part, I spent most of my college years trying to be somebody, whether it's like the big older sister or like being a good nurse or like being a good, student, daughter, I don't know, like good, like small group leader or whatever. But I think I struggled living up to that. And I lost my way a bit, and like I started giving up on myself, on my academics, on my friends, and even church. So it got to the point where I, like kind of like Jason said, I failed my senior year, and I had to like write a whole letter to the school saying that I would get better and that I would go back and like try harder. But the following semester, I essentially withdrew from school, and I had to kind of take time off to figure myself out. And for the rest of that year, I did. So, like I said, it's okay to go through difficult times, and it's okay to, make mistakes and fail as well. Like, I think that's a whole process of learning and growing. But I want you guys to know that you should ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help, and that, you know, you don't have to do it alone. So another thing is, like I mentioned earlier, like your school, like while you're in school, they have so many opportunities. And like I was able to go to Switzerland to like do an exchange program. I was able to like go to seminars. Like school has money, and while you're in school, you have time. You don't have to like do things on your own money or on your vacation time as we do while we're working. So I want you guys to take the most advantage of what you have at school and don't pass it up. So those are some suggestions I had.
Mine's not as heartfelt. I think this is something I knew in college, but it's like one of those things you don't really know until you experience it. And it's like, my career at least, and from talking to friends, like obviously like my technical knowledge and expertise matters a lot. But probably what's gotten me further in my career is just like all like the soft skills, right? And that applies kind of anywhere, right? It's like the ability to like make relationships with people, the ability to communicate well, verbally or written, to the ability to like persuade, like be a storyteller, just be a leader, be a follower, like empathize with people, just like be a normal human and like be someone that people want to work with. It's like, it's so cliche. And I remember I did this like week-long program at school that was like basically centered around this. I'm like, this is so lame. And it like kind of is when you take it at school because you just can't like apply it. But once you start working, I think it probably applies to like any profession, honestly. If you're working with other people, like those are the things that like you could be like, the greatest engineer of all time, but if nobody wants to work with you and you can't explain your ideas and talk to other people, then like nobody wants to work with you. So I think those things really matter no matter what profession you're in. Yeah.
I think Ernie and Esther already talked about the two things I was going to mention. I think, one, I mean, you're not in this alone. Every single person here, we didn't get here by ourselves. We had people that helped us, give us advice. We had people that were there when we were, crying and just like in despair and like in the lowest of lows. And also people that were there when we were celebrating and having, really awesome moments. And so it's not a sign of weakness. It's definitely okay to be vulnerable and okay to reach out for help because it's hard. I mean, life is hard, and finding a right career is very difficult. And we're still all figuring it out in a lot of ways. I think what Ernie said also, I think a lot of people think about medicine and being a doctor as, oh, you got to know the science, you got to be really book smart. Throw that stuff out the door, because medicine is 80% communication and 20% or less of the actual science itself. So what Ernie says is absolutely true. If you want to be a brilliant scientist, there are many other things you can do besides medicine. But medicine is really about working with people, and honestly, it's a service industry where you're working with people every day and you're helping people. And it's not like what you see on Grey's Anatomy or Scrubs or all these TV shows where every moment is like this like magical moment where you're saving lives. There are a lot of tough moments, and you work with a lot of difficult people. And that's the case with any job that we're going to talk, like we're talking about here. People are just tough, and I think you want to work with people that are likable, that are personable, and are vulnerable. And I think that's just something to keep in mind. And so it's okay. It's okay if like I said, I failed biochemistry twice, and like somehow I got here. So it's okay. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't even have to be the average person in science. It's okay. Like, that's fine. It's really about building relationships, fine-tuning your communication skills, and learning how to work with people. That's really what it takes to get into any sort of medical or healthcare field in general. I think if someone asked me what I wish I knew before I started, I think for like doctor specifically, I wish they told me that I would be in so much debt that I would be essentially buying a house and having a mortgage, but never actually owning this house ever. And I'll just be slowly paying off that mortgage for the rest of my life. That's kind of what it feels like. And, you know, I think I'm very thankful. I have enough to eat, sleep, basic needs, but it's hard, and it's a long journey. And, you know, we're talking about healthcare, but, you know, like getting an MD and going down that path is a lot of years. A lot of years in residency. It's a lot of tough years. And like, yeah, and that being said, I think what I'm trying to say is it's important to know why you're trying to get into medicine or get into healthcare. Because if you don't remember that, then you're going to quit and you're going to give up very easily. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
For me, I think what I wish I knew was all of my options. And I think I would give that advice to anybody in college, anybody like even in the medical field, like healthcare, in pharmacy school. Just know all your options. I think for me, my scope was very limited and narrow. When I thought of pharmacy, I just thought of like retail pharmacy, like which is the kind of pharmacist that you see at CVS and Walgreens, or like just hospital pharmacists, which I didn't really entertain the idea at all at the time. So like throughout college, throughout pharmacy school, I was just like, I'm going to be a retail pharmacist. So I'm not going to look into anything else. I'm not going to go to any of these career fairs. I'm not going to go to any of these seminars or anything like that. But now looking back, I like really wish I had known. Because then like if I ever was unhappy with my career, then I could like easily like switch to something. But even now, like I feel like my knowledge is very limited. But I do see a lot of people switch out of retail because the burnout is real. Because we are dealing with people and people are not nice to you. It sucks. That also I wish I knew before I went into pharmacy school about how mean people would be to me every single day. But yeah, I just wish I knew my options. Like, I think, especially during COVID, I was like complaining, like low-key complaining, oh my gosh, I wish I could work from home. There are pharmacists who can work from home. Like those are like the specialty pharmacists. You have like pharmacists in industry, you have nuclear pharmacists. Yeah, there's just so many options that I didn't know that I possibly could have, you know, gone into if I hadn't been so stubborn. And yeah, I feel like that's with any field, not just pharmacy. Just educate yourself. Don't be lazy like me, and just like educate yourself on all of the options that are available to you. And even though you're like so set on one particular thing, it doesn't hurt to know like what's available. And yeah, just like find out the pros and cons of everything, because then maybe you do find something better that's like that's a better fit for you than what you thought was good for yourself. So yeah, that's my advice.
And I'm gonna rephrase. You should study. You should like try to do well in classes. I didn't mean like, you know, like you should try, but don't let that be the priority. That's all.
Okay, so don't try. Got it. I think my advice, man, it's a lot, but I would say, you know, if I were talking to younger Jason, I would say, you know, and I know this is really like obvious, but I think money doesn't bring happiness. You know, I think one of the things that I was stuck with, and I'm speaking to maybe some of you brothers out there, because as men, we have this toxic mentality that once we're done with school, now it's time to like figure out how to raise a family or like be the breadwinner. When I want to tell you that that's your 20s is absolutely the time to find yourself. And for some reason in that time, I remember being like, no, this can't be. Like I'm embarrassed that I'm lost. I'm embarrassed that I don't know what I want to do. When people ask me like what I want to do, I kind of make up this weird lie and I want to justify it. But I want to tell you that, yeah, that's absolutely not true. That and part of the second part of this would be that timing is absolutely like crazy how God works in it. If you guys can't tell, I'm 33. So I'm 33 now, graduating from my master's and starting my career. And I could tell you so much so that my 20s and everything I went through was absolutely needed for me to feel this confident, but also in you know my fears of this field, be okay and lean into God a little bit more because all the stuff that I had to learn in my 20s. So one of the greatest advices I got during my late 20s, which I wish I got earlier, was, you know, like, you know, Jason, like, don't just say things, but like put action into things. So I would say like, hey, I want to go into social working, but I was still thinking of the money side. Like that's why I stayed at business for a little bit. And so one of my mentors was like, you know, Jason, you say you want to go social working, but you're not doing anything about it. So why are you saying that? And that was probably one of the best advice I got, because that pushed me, obviously on top of me getting fired, right? Pushed me to really think about, okay, maybe this is a time for God to really push me to think about this and to lean into that. I knew that sooner. Again, I'm probably contradicting God's perfect timing, so it worked out in that way. But I think if I were to tell my younger self, like one would be, yeah, don't live for money, man. You grew up in the church, you already knew that, but really not to live by that. And two would be like, yeah, as men, your identity is not be found in your lack of a job or lack of direction in after you graduate. Same thing is found in Christ, and in that, I think God really forms you to, you know, see and discover what God really is building in you. To not say that you're gonna get that job and be like, oh, I found my calling, but to really walk and grind in it, and to really like lean into it. Like so, even for me, like I'm in social working, but I know that I have so much more to learn. I'm that much more eager to do it and willing to do it because of all the suffering and all the pain that I've gone through in order for me to really enjoy this field that I'm in.
I have actually 10 things, but I'll keep it to 3. But if I get like a good like response on the third one, I may add in another one. So and this is the first one is actually someone gave me this advice. I forget exactly who, but this really, really stuck with me, which is what people do can often change, but why someone does something often doesn't. But a lot of people aren't aware of the why. And that's often the really, really hard part. And I think spending a lot of time on the why personally, anecdotally, has unlocked a lot of just freedom there. And it's kind of the basis for my career change and a lot of other just personal decisions that I make that may seemingly might not make sense, but it's actually, there's a very solid thread that goes through all of it. The second part is, for whatever reason, I think growing up, there is this emphasis on having the answers, but the more and more I get older, I don't think that's the case. I think you don't need all the answers. Actually, you could get really, really far just by asking good questions. And with my experience interviewing, having interviewed other people, and even like interviewing for my bosses and bosses, weird story there, but I won't share that. But people are not good at asking good questions. Most people are not, is what I've gotten. I think there's some lack of maybe critical thinking, and I think that goes back to why are you doing what you do, and that kind of precedes what you do. And the last thing I think I'll share is as much as we're talking about career, I think it's been extremely helpful for me and also Alina to take a step back and think about our life holistically and then see how a career fits into it, versus when I was growing up, for whatever reason, it was all about a career. Set up your career, set up your life, and then everything else will follow. But now that I have kids, I'm married, I think very differently now. It's really life first, and then career somehow fits into it. And I do talk about my career a lot, but there's a lot more decisions and important conversations that I have about my life that I do. I do way more of that than I talk about my career. Cool. I got a lot of nods, but I'll just keep it to 3.
I was expecting a 4th, but okay. I mean, everybody's kind of pretty much touched on everything that I've experienced or I wish I'd known. You know, don't be afraid of failure. I failed my boards. I almost got held back in PA school. I didn't fail biochem, but like I failed pharmacology. But you know, it's part of it's. If you have enough faith and patience, and you work hard enough, God will provide. And I think a big part of that is just being prayerful and mindful that God has a set plan for you. So I think a lot of that has to do with you know, your community and your support groups too. For me, I guess one of the things that I would say that's a little different would be having an outlet. So specifically for PA school, in my experience was I've always heard that it's the hardest thing that you'll ever do in your life if you go this track. And you know, I wasn't the type to really like stress out, or like I would be the one that sleeps in class and then gets an A or go, you know, like that kind of like style. But PA school really like put me through the grinder. Like I remember studying like for a whole day, like 24 hours in the library. Like I would sleep in one of those in the study rooms and just be there for over 24 hours, pulling my hair out, doing yoga to like try and like relax, because I would be like stressing out about all these exams that I have. And the only thing that really got me through it was having like my small group of friends that we studied together. So like they understand what you're going through, and we were able to support each other in that way. And also outside of that, spiritually was like Cornerstone. Like I didn't know anybody else, and like community group at Cornerstone really helped like kind of center me. And so I think that was monumental in me being able to get through PA school. And for the physical side, like swimming was my outlet. I had to do that to relieve a lot of that mental stress, and I did that by swimming. So as long as you have some kind of an outlet, mentally, spiritually, something to help like displace you from that dark hole of studying, I think it'll really help tremendously.
So I would say, and I think it's a little bit more normalized now, but certainly take care of your mental health. Therapy is cool. Everyone should look into therapy. If you have depression, certainly look into therapy. There are things that seem unrelated, but if you have depression, that will exacerbate your depression. So if you have depression, don't take a job where you have to drive 6 hours one way every week. And then the other thing is, somebody said it before, kind of, but you should analyze where you put your worth. I think my largest period of growth was my 9 months of unemployment. And it wasn't until I was crying in the shower that I realized that I had placed so much of my value and my worth in my job and my ability to make money, as opposed to in my relationship with Jesus Christ, as opposed to the fact that I have salvation, the fact that, that I have a relationship with God. And the fact that those two things can even sort of have similar weight in my heart speaks volumes as to where my idolatries lie. And so I think people as we're constantly looking for ways to figure out our worth, and salaries are a really easy way for us to feed our egos and things like that. And so it's super easy to build up idols, and it's super easy to forget the fact that we have been given the gift of grace. So yeah.
Awesome. That's great advice from everybody. Thank you. So my goal was to keep this between 90 and 2 hours. So real quickly, last question, and then we'll open it up to questions from the students. And some of you already brushed up on it too, but how does God and your faith intersect, talk to, relate to, touch, involve itself, all those different verbs with your career and your work life today? So we'll go in the same order. And then after Johnny answers, we'll open up to questions.
So me personally, I'm not really like career like ambitious. Kind of what Stuart said, for me, like I think my faith journey is the center of existing and living, and like my career choice, my career path is like an accessory to that. So if from getting into nursing school, like even the process of doing that, or somehow getting into school and like meeting friends, like going through like the open doors and having all those opportunities, and like having doors shut on you, and like failing, like all those things, like that is a part of my nursing career. But it's first and foremost like this path that God placed me on to grow and to learn more about myself and who created me to be, and also to kind of know and trust that like every step of the way he's there and he's like sovereign over that. I think that is like where I put like my faith in my career, like where that intersects. Career kind of comes as like a part of my like life journey, like my faith journey. But particular for nursing, I guess what helps me kind of go to work is it's like a little plug of my gift and calling. For me, I went through the coaching session with Pastor Bill. My gift and calling is, hospitality and craftsmanship. I like to create spaces and environments where people are comfortable, where they can be whole, where they can be themselves. And that like translates into like being a nurse. Like I can help people emotionally, physically, and I can help them feel comfortable. And that's just, you know, something that I can do. And my career is like a channel for me to like live out my calling. So I think being able to figure that out and being able to kind of learn and understand what God has created me to be helps me to like better utilize that in the work setting. But I think like it's easy for me to compartmentalize like work and work and church with church. So I think I'm still working to kind of bridge that so that I can be a better Christian in the workplace. So that's something I'm still learning to grow on. Yeah.
Cool. I think for me, in terms of like faith and work, I think, you know, similar to probably a lot of people, and when I was younger, like I used to think like your job has to be something that's like really like meaningful to people, right? So there are like medical professionals here, like Jason does social work that's like very clearly does like important, like changes people's lives, right? And like literally saves lives. And obviously that's amazing and that's great. But I think a lot of people like think if your job doesn't do that, like it's like kind of meaningless. And I think that's like a really, unless your job is like actively hurting people, like I think that's like a pretty like small way to really look at work. And I think you see in scripture, like God, like good work is like we're meant to work, and that I think good work creates value in this world in some way and is glorifying to God. So I think that's just like something I've kind of taken, like I think my company does good things and I help them, so that's good enough for me in that sense. But I think there's like other ways you can think about work, and as I've learned over time is like, you know, if you make really good money, right, then you can take that money and do other really good things with it, right? If your job is flexible, right, you can take that time you have in supporting other people, right? Like for us, we started thinking about foster care, and we're like, can we do this? And we're like, well, our jobs are flexible. If I need to go drive and like pick up a kid somewhere, like I could do that right now if I need to, right? So I think there are like other ways to think about that. And another way is like just the skills I've gained in my work. It's really funny. Like my career has paralleled like what I've had to do at church at the same time. Like I served on leadership team for 4 years, and a lot of the stuff I talk with Pastor Bill about, like from like a kind of corporate like church as an organization sense, is like all the same things I was doing at work. So I was able to take those lessons and kind of combine them. So I think just like don't put in a box, I guess, like what how your work can glorify God, because I've learned countlessly like God will use it in many different ways. I think the last thing is just like you can minister to the people you work with. I think it was Pastor Hojin who said like, I'm kind of jealous of you sometimes, like you being people who are not in ministry, because like you're out there with people who don't believe. And I think we should not take that for granted. I work at a super hyper liberal tech company where very few people are Christian and we're kind of like looked down upon. So the relationship I have with the people I work with is like more witness than I could do in probably a lot of different areas of my life. So I try to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I agree with Ernie. I think if to answer this question, I had an answer and I totally forgot what I was going to say. Hold on.
We practiced in the car.
You go. Hold on. You talk first. And then...
Okay, I guess I'll go first. You did. How did God factor into my career journey? Definitely, like the whole career shift from business into pharmacy was definitely like, I give all credit to God, like the fact that he placed those mentors into my life. And like, I didn't even know that's what his intention was. And also like that epiphany that I talked about like, oh, like do pharmacy, like that actually, that's something I usually tell to believers, is that like, that was actually the first time with clarity I heard like God's voice speak to me. And I was like, no way, that can't be. But it was just so clear. It's just, yeah, I like don't know how to describe it, but I was like, yeah, God's telling me to go to pharmacy. And I think that really helped me through like the struggles of like cramming all of these like prerequisite classes that were so like challenging to get to pharmacy school. And once I got to pharmacy school, like because I was in an accelerated program, it was just so rough. Like, yeah, I failed exams I passed biochem. But yeah, I failed exams before, and I was like, okay, God, like I failed this exam, but this is the career path you chose for me. So like I'm gonna keep moving, and that really helped motivate me to finish school and like get into my career. As for God in the workplace, that is actually something that I'm still working on. Like I really don't know the answer to that. But one thing that I can definitely say is like if I weren't a Christian, I would definitely not be like in my job now, like still be able to be a retail pharmacist. Like I said, people are mean, people are brutal, they say nasty things to you, they like challenge you every day. And I think if it's not for like the grace that God's shown for me, like I would not be able to show grace to these people, and I would like just like throw my white coat and be like, I'm done. But that's definitely something that I don't take for granted, like being a Christian and just being shown grace so that I can show it back to the people that come into the pharmacy every day. And that's something that I pray about every morning during my commute to work, is like, God, please like help me show grace. Like it's really hard, but please help me be nice to people who are mean to me. But yeah, and just that maybe me being like nice in return may like show them a glimpse of what God's love is like. I think that's like my biggest goal in my job, is to just be able to reflect that even a little bit. Yeah, did you remember?
Yeah, so I remember now. So I was agreeing with Ernie because, yeah, and I think this applies to a lot of workplaces. But the hospital and the medical field is, again, pretty secular, unfortunately, and Christianity is looked down upon in a lot of ways. But there are a lot of Christians, strong Christians, that are that are in medicine. So for me, I think part of navigating my faith at work is realizing that, one, not every situation is life-saving, and so it's not this dramatic thing where like I'm like talking to family and saying, oh my gosh, like your family members, like they're very sick, and like I'm praying for them. That doesn't actually happen as much as I want, but I try. But 90% of the things that I see, maybe 90%, aren't going to be those situations where it's going to be, I'll be like very blunt, a drunk homeless person coming into the emergency room who is just acting up and causing a lot of problems. I have to be able to show grace to that person and not to judge them, and to realize that, hey, look, this person is loved by God. And even though my coworkers and other people will look at this person and say, wow, like this person is like the bottom of society, kick him out. Like, what is he doing here? I have to be able to at least listen to him and take my time to be patient. And I think that's something I've been trying to work on more. It's hard. I think as I'm getting more senior and becoming an attending, I think there's more room to do that and more room to adjust my practice in that way. So I think that's one way that I'm trying to incorporate my faith. I think, and like Ernie was saying as well, it's also a really great opportunity to, for me to talk about my faith and talk about church and God with my coworkers. And, like my class, for example, my residency class, they're definitely very liberal. We have, I have several gay and lesbian classmates, and they always talk about pro-choice, pride, all these things that are very difficult topics to, sometimes for us to address. But they know that I'm a Christian, and they know that I don't, at least externally, I don't judge them, and I try to love on them, and I treat them the same just as everybody else in our class. And I think for me, that's been an ongoing kind of work, ongoing, like, I guess you could say project for me, is to try to show that being a Christian doesn't mean that you have to be bigoted and hating on every person that is a sinner or that goes against your beliefs. And I think hopefully by the end of training they'll realize that, because that is something that's tough. I think there's a lot of open criticism of Christians. So that's my main way. And then, and then for the situations that are tough, we do see a lot of death. I've seen a lot of death, especially these past, COVID has been crazy. But that has also given me opportunities to pray and have moments of silence. I've been trying to do that more at work. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you guys said. All of the above. I think for me, social working is a holistic practice. So we deal with the mental health, we deal with living, food stamps, yeah, like abuse, neglect, all those things. And so as a Christian, yeah, to echo Dan, like I think one of the hardest things to be a Christian in this world, and especially with things that are going on, is just where do we stand? And especially right now, it's really difficult. I feel like with COVID and the racism and all these justice talks, I've always said that, you know, I pray that we can like tackle some of this stuff with racism because underneath that layer, there's a whole bunch of stuff, even in healthcare, even in housing, and even in all these things. So to be honest, I think for me, when I got the call, I was like, God, you want me to go with social working? There's so much to do. There's so much that I don't even understand where I stand. Like, with the LGBTQ and like all these other things that social workers are supposed to be unbiased and advocating for. And again, feel free to email me, ask me. I don't have the answers, but I can at least, share a little bit about how I'm praying and thinking about that based on God's word. And that's way too much for me to put into this section right now. So I encourage you, if you are wrestling with that and want to talk about that, I would, again, not to have an answer, but to form our hearts towards Christ in this time. But I would say that's probably one of the bigger ways I think God's really challenging me in my work is, yeah, like everything, Ernie, Esther, Dan, Olivia are saying before me. I think that's so true. I think to enter into whatever field you're going with, I hope you guys aren't entering it with, all right, I have all the answers. Honestly, and this is sounds super Christianese, but like I usually pretty much rely back on like how much I'm just so saddened that the world has seen Jesus smeared and almost like less impactful. And for me, for our church, as we know and we seek Jesus, for me, the only answer is Jesus. And so I think one of the hardest things for me in my field is just how much I really want to share and how much I really want to talk about these things, but yet I think it's itchy, it's scratchy, it's really gray, it's scary, and I think a lot of times for me, it's really hard to think about that, but at the same time, it's really exciting to really be challenged and think about these things, to pray, like you guys have been sharing about some of these things, and I would say that this is a very unique time for us for sure, and even for me as a social worker, it's been really interesting to see mental health really take a stand where for so many generations it's just been kind of like this urban myth, and I feel like especially for me, I really want to advocate that and share the good news that yeah, there's somebody who died for us and who's advocating for us, who's overcome even this whole season, and it's crazy how many conversations I've actually had with people who, I mean, obviously I can't bring it up, but it's been really cool to see if when clients bring it up, I can definitely join in. And in that ability, I've been able to have some really crazy and awesome conversations with people who we've been seeing as schizophrenic, who in our society are considered like crazy and going to shoot up a school, but actually have really solid conversations with people and actually really hold on to faith. So I think for me, that's really the fruits and the cool part of my job is I'm not doing anything other than listening and allowing the Spirit to move if he can. And in that way, to trust in it. So I would say that's probably the biggest way God's really growing me and working in my field.
I'll share two things. So first is before there was a gifts and calling class, there was a class called Servanthood that I think Hojin did, which has a similar flavor. And I think that kind of unlocked a lot of, this is how God probably designed me, and these are the giftings and talents that I should be using in service of whatever God may be doing. And that got me really thinking and put me on a particular wavelength, I guess, in trying to experiment and kind of really live that out. That coupled with I was a pretty new Christian at the time. So I was still exploring, and I was going through a season that I could best describe as depression. So I kind of hit rock bottom and had this opportunity to kind of rebuild myself. And through that, I feel as though I have this deep conviction that I know my mission in life, and that is my why. So it doesn't matter what I do, but as long as I make decisions according to my why, I feel pretty aligned. And I try to take that with me with everything I do. And that's been such an amazing compass for me. But on the flip side, my character flaw is, or my idol, whatever you want to call it, is I'm pretty reserved, but I feel like I am ambitious to a fault. And the way I try to bring God into that equation is I've learned that I have to say no to a lot of things that my Asian side would be very proud of me for saying yes to. So there's been times I've like really had a hard time, but I said no to a higher paying job offer, or no to promotions, no to moving, even though I felt like there was a particular job that like I really wanted. And I still wrestle with that today. Like every other day, there's like something that comes up. I'm like, oh, this is pretty exciting. I want to do this. But no, or like, there's the side project that I'm really excited about and I want to do it. I do it to the point where like I get in a fight with Alina. So I think that's the other side of the equation that I wrestle with. So those are the two different parts.
So for me, how to got back into my career journey, he was pretty much all encompassing. He kind of built the road, showed me the road, put me on the road, kept me on the road, beat me back on the road. Like it's kind of hard to tell this career journey without having some kind of talk about God being a factor in it. Everything from how I came to picking Northeastern as the program, coming to Boston, somehow not, flunking or redoing the year. Even after I graduated, there was a period of unemployment about the same time as Johnny. I was unemployed for a year and a half and just kind of doing jobs that were not what I went to school for. And kind of like having that feeling of, you're trained to do more, but you feel like you're being kind of relegated to, not to knock on the food industry. Like I love working at Cheesecake Factory and all these other places, but like it's just not what you're called for. And so that unemployment period for me was definitely a huge leveling up period. I feel like God was teaching me a lot about patience, really tempering my faith, and kind of I feel like it was kind of testing me in how long could I hold out for, knowing that being a PA was kind of the path that I knew He called me to. And so even today, I still feel God and I see His fingerprints and everything else. I'm looking for a new job, just for the next thing I feel like God's calling me for. And even with my patient interactions, I forgot who mentioned it, but it's all about how you interact with people. It's a service industry, I think Dan said, and that's 100% true. You can be the best, the smartest guy in the room, but if you can't talk to people, it's not gonna matter. Healthcare, being an effective healthcare provider means you can do less, and the patient is able to take care of themselves a little bit. So I would say that, you know, I can talk about like how God impacted my life in this career, like every part of it, but I'll say that for next episode.
I would like to. So this is kind of not really answering the question, but I just want to reiterate that depression is nothing to mess with, and yeah, you are not alone if you're struggling with that, and if you might be hustling really hard, and all that might, you might not even realize it, but it might be uh, to try to get away from it. So just know that you are not alone. Seek help, definitely. Reach out to me. Reach out to Pastor Danny. Yeah, this definitely, just don't mess around with that stuff. Like it's very serious, and yeah, you have a large community of people that love you, even when every part of you tells you that that's not true. Um, in terms of actually answering the question, I would say that the the biggest thing for me was right after I graduated college, I didn't have a job, and I'm from Colorado, so it kind of would have made sense for me to go back and live with my parents, while I was looking for a job. But I in terms of calling, I don't know if I necessarily feel called to be an engineer, but I felt a calling to a place, and that place is Boston, obviously, um, at least for a little while anyway. So um, yeah, so not everyone might know like where their calling is in terms of their vocation necessarily, but you might know where God is calling you to. And so I would say um, don't ignore those things, because location is a big thing. And I think a lot of what I think we move around a lot based on where our jobs might be. Like, oh, I'll move across the country because my job is sending me there, or because I got a job offer. And like that's all valid and awesome. But I think we should also put a lot of weight into um, this is the place I want to be because I can serve at this church, or because um, you, like have church and have a community be more of a factor in terms of deciding where you want to live.
Okay, thanks everybody. So questions, students, you can either type it or say it. You can direct it at a specific person, or just throw it out there. Up to you. So we'll give this a little bit of time, and then if not, we'll close, but give some time for you to think of any if you have any.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
Stuart, what's your why?
I believe that my mission in life is to equip and empower people to maximize the way God designed them. So what I've learned is that design is one way to do it, but the other thing could be some version of teaching or counseling. Because like I have a tendency to like whatever I know, I don't know that much, but I'll just share everything. I don't know. There's something there. I think over time I'm just learning to kind of lean into my intuition.
You should put that on a plaque somewhere.
Frame it and then put it up there. Yeah.
All right, last call.
I have a question. I guess like how much, if any, did like the idea or like your vision of like family or like relationships factor into your like career path?
Carolyn, what do you have a particular career path in mind?
Yeah, I'm currently pre-med.
It's you, Dan.
Oh yeah, I guess that's me. Wait, so can you rephrase your question again?
Like family.
Yeah, like how much did, if any, did like the idea of like family and like relationships factor into like your decision to go down this path?
Oh, surgery.
I guess I'm trying to understand your question in the sense that I guess are you asking, did that factor into me deciding to do medicine, or more like how did I navigate that? Are you asking like first or the second? I guess.
I guess like the first.
You didn't.
I don't know if I really. I don't think I thought a lot about it. Let me think. But to answer your question, I think it's very important. I think it's very important to, and actually, you know, like, it's important to think about because I talk about this with a lot of my classmates who are women, both during med school and also residency, and it's not easy. I think a lot of them, I mean, it's amazing. Like some of the mentors I've had, there was one resident when I was an intern who had twins and another, like a third child during residency, during training, and somehow managed to do everything and like graduated and finished.
Including pumping during shifts.
And would like literally, yeah, exactly, take breaks to pump like on shift. And so I think there's nothing that's impossible, but it's really, you know, it's really up to you in terms of what you value. And if you, at this point, and if you're pre-med, you value certain things that you think are uncompromisable, is that a word? Or just you can't compromise. That may actually redirect your thoughts into, do I really want to do medicine? As in like med school, because there's a lot of things you can do besides med school that still put you in medicine and healthcare. PA school, for example, is much shorter path and much more flexible, and the hours are also much better, and the pay is great. So I think that's something that might help. But I've seen people get married. I mean, I got married during residency. It's
Not
possible.
easy.
It wasn't
Not
easy. It was
easy.
very hard. It's very hard. So I don't know if that answers your question. I guess, kind of.
I think within medicine, like from somebody like watching him in the process, this is like a conversation that we had while he was in his last year of med school, is like what specialty he wants to go into. Like I know that's like way ahead of you, but because there are so many options within medicine, like he chose a specialty like emergency medicine for family, like for family planning, because it's something that you're like not really on call. Like once you become an attending, like you have, it's shift based, so you know where you're going to be at what time. Whereas like he was interested in surgery before, and like I wouldn't have married him if he was like going to be a surgeon. Like that's impossible. So yeah, like definitely like there are routes within medicine that can provide flexibility for you, I think.
Just to chime in, I think I wouldn't, like Dan mentioned, like what your like non-negotiables, what your priorities are, shouldn't really, you know, matter. Like I mean, they do matter. So like your career path shouldn't matter. Like as long as your non-negotiables are, you know, being met. Like for me, like I mentioned before, like PA, it's a little bit more flexible. And for me, like the hours are a little bit, they're pretty much the same as like, you know, the residents or any of the doctors. Like for instance, like emergency medicine, like we're on the same, we will be on the same shifts, you know, schedules and things like that. But they allow a little, I think the reason I picked PA was just because of, we're considered mid-level practitioners. So I didn't want all of the responsibilities and like that kind of, yeah, responsibilities essentially that came along with being a doctor. So I had somebody who I could just kind of like divert some of that stuff and I can go home like at a same hour. And they're pretty good about, I mean, I feel like any kind of healthcare field, there are work specialties that they'll try to work with you, but it's, the schedule is what it is. So you have like, there's opportunities to have family in whatever healthcare profession you go into, nursing, being a doctor, being a PA, nurse practitioner. They're all pretty, you know, open. So.
Yeah, I think I would second that. I work with a lot of doctors. They all have families, and they all seem like they have pretty healthy families.
Yeah, my classmate had twins at the start of PA program, and she finished it. And then she had another kid like as we were graduating. So.
Yeah, it seems like it's like just managing expectations and who you meet and what you guys agree on. Because I think anything can really work as long as you guys are, whoever the other person is, just agree to be in the same boat.
Thank you to everyone.
Tina's asking Stuart for the rest of his book. Stuart, did you type it out? Are you reading on a computer screen?
I typed out some bullets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to email the bullets to Tina? Because
Sure,
I think
yeah.
7 is going to take us to 11 o'clock.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So Tina, oh, there it is. The email address right there. And while you're on that, Tina, you should ask him his story of jumping jobs, because obviously that was I remember talking to you about all that stuff, Stuart, years ago, and that was a big deal.
Yeah, it made sense to no one. Like, what? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, it was a big leap. Yeah. Any other questions?
Can we ask all the students what their possible career paths are, or if they're undecided?
Sure.
So that they can talk.
I'll limit it to that for time, but or a little bit after that. But students, if you want, you can say your name and what you think you want to do. You can either type it or say it.
Unhide yourselves.
Or not.
I'm Ubin. I'm a rising senior, and then right now I'm an international studies major, but I don't know what I'm gonna do right now. Still trying to figure out. So yeah.
I'm Jay. I'm a senior, and I'm studying graphic design and advertising. So I'm still trying to figure out, like, where exactly my values and priorities are. But yeah, trying to figure out, like, oh yeah, do I want to move into more like of a design studio type practice, or more ad based? I don't really have a preference, so it's really just trying to figure that out right now. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm currently a rising sophomore, and right now I'm a finance and business analytics major. So I'm thinking about going into consulting or something along the lines of data science right now.
Yubin's too scared. Christina put a thing on the right side.
I'm here.
Yeah, Christina, let's go.
Yubin, like how you been? I'm a senior at BU. Wow, I'm a senior. I'm also thinking about going into social work.
Yo, where's all the questions then, y'all?
Dude, we need more social workers. They're so
I'll
clutch.
email you.
Oh, hi, I'm Tina. I'm a sophomore in Brandeis, and then I want to do business.
Hi, my name is Kate. I'm a rising senior at BC, and I'm a nursing major. I'm still considering which field I want to go into, but I'm interested in OR currently.
OR is very hot right now. A lot of people want to go there, so it's a good choice.
Hi, I'm Irene. I'm a rising senior at Boston College, and I'm a communications major, marketing and design minor, and I'm interested in UX.
Okay, last call for questions before I close us out. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody, and big thank you for some young adults, some not so young adults, for spending your time sharing, and if you connect with the students afterwards, for that as well. So just wrapping everything up, I think there was a really good common theme that I would just like to reiterate as we close. And obviously, your whole life, the culture, and sometimes your parents, probably all times your parents, and it seems like society is all pressuring you that everything in your life revolves around what your future career is. That's why, I mean, we kind of are complicit too. Every time we meet a new student, we ask, oh, what are you majoring in? Like, it's as if the whole world is telling you that this is the most important thing in your life. And it's absolutely not. And I love how what the collective advice was from everybody. I honestly, when I posed the question number 2 was like, oh, what do you wish you knew back then? I thought it was going to be a lot of practical stuff. Like, oh, like if you're going to go into medicine, make sure you do this. If you're going to go into business, make sure you do this. But the common theme is from all these people who didn't talk to each other, by the way, they didn't know what their other answers was going to be, had so much to do with the importance of your life as a whole, about your faith, about your character, about being a good person, about keeping your priorities straight. And yeah, work is certainly important, so I don't want to downplay that. Obviously, this whole seminar was focused on your work and the importance of it. But I think as Christians, our value and identity is so much further beyond that, and is so much more important than that, that I hope that it can be something that we pursue with excellence, but never be like taking the seat of the throne inside of your hearts. And so I think finding that balance is a journey that all of us will be on forever. And there will be many times where that gets challenged. And without letting this go too much longer, since I haven't shared today, I'll share a very quick story. And it's that, you know, when Unji was my wife, when she was a few years into her career and like things started getting really bad, like the workplace became really toxic and unhealthy. But the question was, well, you can't quit because like, where are we going to get money? And at the end of the day, we decided we had to talk and we're like, okay, like, I would rather you work at a supermarket, at a restaurant, at a cafe, anywhere and be happy than be miserable, and for us to feel more financially comfortable. So the next day she went and told her boss, hey, I'm quitting. And, you know, there's a long story after that of how the road turned out. But what I'll never forget about that moment was how it was clear for us as a family that we would rather like be quote unquote poor, which isn't even real in America, right? Like struggle financially than compromise like our health and our well-being and our joy. And so there will be moments where you guys feel low, like maybe you'll notice like, you know, there was a lot of failing and like struggling and like long nights in the library. But if you remember anything out of this, I hope that it's that like your career pursuit is not everything in your life, nor should become everything in your life. And therefore it certainly shouldn't be the dictator of the joy and the happiness of your life. So let us help you along that way. On the chat section, you see everyone's contact information. And obviously we have more people at church. So some of you mentioned majors that that nobody here are doing. And if you want something more specific, email me and I'll connect you to a Cornerstone young adult or working person who's in it, because it's likely that we've pretty much covered everybody at our church for the most part. But let us help you along the road as we're just a little bit further ahead. So thanks for coming, everybody. I'll post this on YouTube and email it to you all if you want to look back. And as I said, you know, the email addresses are there, reach out. If everybody else wants Stuart's 10 points of how to be amazing, I'll get that from him too, if more people want it other than Tina and Ernie, actually. Make sure you send it to Ernie too, if he wants it. All right, so see you later. If you have any questions, just email us, but thanks for coming. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. This was fun.
See you guys.